Alfonso Cahero, A Journey into Finance History, Chapter 16, Spanish Influx of American Silver, Harn 16th Century. In the 16th century, Spain emerged as a dominant global power with its conquest and colonization of the Americas. Spanish explorers and conquistadors, driven by the desire for riches and glory, ventured into the unknown territories of the New World, seeking treasures and new lands to claim for the Spanish crown. Among the valuable resources they discovered was silver, abundant in mines throughout regions like Mexico, Peru, and Bolivia. This marked the beginning of a significant economic shift as Spain's colonies became key sources of wealth. The discovery of rich silver deposits in the Americas was a turning point in Spain's economic fortunes. Silver mines, such as the famous Potosí mine in present-day Bolivia, yielded immense quantities of the precious metal, enriching Spanish coffers and fueling economic growth. The influx of silver into Spain transformed the country into one of the wealthiest nations in Europe during the 16th century, leading to a period known as the Spanish Golden Age. Silver from the Americas flooded into Spain, creating a financial windfall for the Spanish monarchy. Massive shipments of silver bullion made their way across the Atlantic, bolstering Spain's economy and financing its imperial ambitions. The Spanish crown monopolized the trade in American silver, imposing taxes and tariffs on silver exports and reaping enormous profits. The silver bonanza fueled Spain's military expansion, funded lavish construction projects, and enabled the country to exert its influence across Europe and beyond. The influx of American silver had profound economic consequences, both for Spain and the wider world. The sudden influx of precious metal led to a significant increase in liquidity and inflation in Spain, as the abundance of silver devalued currency and disrupted domestic markets. Despite this, the Spanish monarchy used silver wealth to finance its military campaigns, colonial administration, and grandiose projects, leaving a lasting impact on Spain's economy. The flow of American silver into Europe stimulated global trade networks, as Spanish merchants exchanged silver for goods from Asia, Africa, and other parts of Europe. The demand for luxury goods such as silk, spices, and porcelain fueled trade routes that stretched from Manila to Mexico, creating a truly global economy. The silver trade became the cornerstone of Spain's economic power and contributed to the emergence of global economic interconnectedness. The influx of silver into Europe played a crucial role in the rise of capitalism, as the abundance of precious metal spurred investment, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The growth of banking and financial institutions, such as the Bank of Amsterdam and the Bank of England, facilitated the flow of capital and credit, laying the foundation for modern capitalist economies. The silver trade fueled economic growth, industrialization, and urbanization, transforming European societies and economies in profound ways. The silver bonanza had far-reaching social consequences, both in Spain and its colonies. In Spain, the concentration of wealth in the hands of the crown and the nobility widened social inequalities, leading to resentment and unrest among the lower classes. In the Americas, the exploitation of indigenous peoples and African slaves in silver mines fueled social upheaval and resistance, as native populations and enslaved people rebelled against oppressive colonial rule. The silver trade facilitated cultural exchange and interaction between Europe, the Americas, and Asia, as goods, ideas, and people flowed along global trade routes. European demand for luxury goods from Asia stimulated the expansion of trade networks and the exchange of cultural practices, religions, and technologies. The silver trade also fueled the growth of port cities and commercial centers, such as Manila, Seville, and Lisbon, which became hubs of cultural exchange and cosmopolitanism. The influx of silver into Spain and its colonies had devastating consequences for indigenous peoples in the Americas. Spanish colonization and the extraction of silver led to the forced displacement, enslavement, and genocide of millions of indigenous people, as they were subjected to violence, disease, and exploitation by Spanish colonizers. The silver trade disrupted traditional economies and social structures, leading to the loss of land, livelihoods, and cultural heritage for indigenous communities.
The extraction of silver from mines in the Americas had significant environmental consequences, as forests were cleared, rivers polluted, and ecosystems destroyed to access precious metal deposits. The use of toxic chemicals, such as mercury, in the silver refining process contaminated soil and water sources, causing long-term damage to human health and the environment. The environmental legacy of the silver trade continues to impact ecosystems and communities in the Americas to this day. The silver trade spurred technological innovation and development in Europe as merchants and entrepreneurs sought more efficient ways to transport, refine, and mint silver. Advances in metallurgy, navigation, and transportation, such as the invention of the galleon ship and the development of the mercury amalgamation process, revolutionized the silver trade and facilitated the flow of precious metal across the Atlantic. These technological innovations had far-reaching impacts beyond the silver trade, driving progress in science and engineering and industry. The influx of American silver into Europe had profound political ramifications, as the wealth and power it brought transformed the balance of power among European nations. Spain's dominance in the silver trade allowed it to assert its influence across Europe and beyond, shaping diplomatic alliances, conflicts, and rivalries. The silver trade fueled Spain's imperial ambitions and military expansion, leading to conflicts such as the 80 Years' War and the Anglo-Spanish War. Meanwhile, other European powers, such as England, France, and the Netherlands, sought to challenge Spain's hegemony in the silver trade, leading to competition and conflict that shaped the course of European history. The reliance on American silver created economic dependency among European nations, as Spain's wealth and power were largely based on the silver trade. Other European countries, such as England, France, and the Netherlands, sought to break Spain's monopoly on the silver trade and gain access to precious metal resources in the Americas. This competition for silver resources fueled conflicts and rivalries among European powers, leading to wars, piracy, and colonial expansion in the Americas. The influx of American silver into Europe led to economic fluctuations and instability, as the abundance of precious metal disrupted currency values and inflation rates. Spain's economy experienced periods of boom and bust as silver flowed in and out of the country, leading to financial crises and economic downturns. The silver trade also had ripple effects on global markets, as fluctuations in the supply and demand for silver impacted trade, investment, and economic growth in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The silver trade contributed to the spread of Spanish cultural hegemony across Europe and the Americas, as the wealth and power it brought allowed Spain to assert its influence in politics, religion, and the arts. Spanish art, literature, and architecture flourished during the Spanish Golden Age, as artists and intellectuals were patronized by wealthy nobles and the monarchy. Meanwhile, in the Americas, Spanish colonization led to the imposition of Spanish language, religion, and customs on indigenous peoples, shaping the cultural landscape of the region for centuries to come. The silver trade left a lasting legacy that continues to shape the economies, societies, and cultures of the world today. The influx of American silver into Europe fueled economic growth, innovation, and globalization, transforming Europe into a global economic powerhouse and reshaping the world economy. And the silver trade also had profound social, environmental, and political impacts, as it led to the exploitation and displacement of indigenous peoples, the destruction of ecosystems, and the rise and fall of empires. Understanding the legacy of the silver trade is essential for grappling with the complexities and inequalities of the modern world. The silver trade spurred financial innovation and development in Europe as merchants, bankers, and financiers sought new ways to capitalize on the abundance of precious metal. The growth of banking institutions, such as the Bank of Amsterdam and the Bank of England, facilitated the flow of capital and credit, enabling investment in trade, industry, and colonial ventures. Financial instruments such as bills of exchange, insurance, and joint stock companies emerged to facilitate investment and manage risk in the increasingly complex world of global commerce.
The silver trade played a key role in the process of globalization, as the flow of precious metal connected distant regions of the world and facilitated the exchange of goods, people, and ideas. Silver became the common currency of global trade, serving as a medium of exchange in markets from Manila to Mexico City. The silver trade fueled the growth of global trade networks and the integration of economies across continents, laying the foundation for the interconnected world we live in today.